Yes. So my name is Amelia Mutter. I'm a researcher at the Division of Environmental Communication. And today I'll be presenting a talk based on a paper I'm writing together with Martin Weston, as well as Camilo Calderon and Alexandra Hellquist. And this is part of work package 1, where we focus on dialogue practices, which we view as central to environmental communication, because of how invented dialogues are spaces where actors communicate on sustainability issues in view of making decisions about places and societies. So the talk is entitled Power and Ambivalence in Practitioner Stories. And this is based on one of the case studies we're doing in the work package together with a group of urban planners in Gottsunda, which is an area under development in Uppsala. And so we've had a bit of an iterative relationship with these planners, trying to understand how they think. And with the paper, we try to adjust the question. How do dialogue experts make sense of their use of power in dialogues with citizens? And so in an attempt to answer this question, we did a series of 3 different focus groups. And we asked them to share stories of meaningful interactions that they've had with citizens. And through the group of planners, we ended up with 2 stories. One from a planner we called Anna, where she shares an example of when she was having a dialogue together with students about the area, and one of them raised her hand and said, "Don't ruin Gottsunda." The second story is from another planner that we're calling Cecilia, who shares a story about when she attended a party together with women and children in the neighborhood, and how she tried to build relationships with this group of people that was a bit harder to reach. And so in the first group of the first focus group, rather, we just sort of talked through these experiences and used a cycle of reflection to understand how the planners thought of these experiences and what they potentially learned from them. And I've chosen to demonstrate our findings primarily through quotes, as you'll see. So for example, Anna said that it got me thinking that maybe we sometimes need to carry out dialogues without actively steering them, but rather letting them be steered by the dialogue itself. Meanwhile, Cecilia, in talking about her story, shared that she felt that it could have been a relationship building opportunity where you can have conversations and don't care so much about post-it notes, but rather ask some open questions as an introduction to a conversation and building a relationship. So in this first workshop, we found that the planners tend to problematize the manner in which they steer dialogue and influence it and call into question their habitual practices. For example, these post-it notes that Cecilia mentions, demonstrating an interest in allowing more space for citizens to influence the dialogues. In the second focus group, we shifted the conversation a bit more towards power, how the planners used power in these situations, but also how they could try and justify their use of power. And we found that there were primarily 2 justifications that came out of both of the stories. One, which we've called the advocative justification, where I've used an example from Cecilia. Also apologies, because they're about to empty the trash right outside my window. So Anna's quote, for example, using the advocative justification, says that we've thought about lifting and giving legitimacy even to the perspectives that came in during early dialogues. So we thought that by taking these up in the consultation reports, that we can broaden the participation in the plan process in some way. And so with this advocative justification, the planners talk about how they can use their power to better empower the citizens and make the dialogues more inclusive. The second type of justification we have is bureaucratic justification. Using a quote from Cecilia, she says that we have, of course, strong political directives to do a lot of dialogues and participation. And so this is a classic justification that you see with planners, that they justify their power by their role in the democratic system. So really quickly, in the third, I'll skip this one. In the third focus group, we then presented our preliminary findings about these 2 justifications and found out more about the planners' own ambivalence and of how they use these justifications. For example, Cecilia says, we've used concepts like let us be led by the residents. We have some idea that we don't always have to set the agenda, but we don't know how exactly how to do this, maybe the agenda can be looser in theme or form. And so this is just another example of how the planners seem somewhat ambivalent, if not uncomfortable with their use of power, and start to consider ways of giving up some of that power, and what the alternatives could be. In another quote from Anna, she says that these two motives overlap. When I try to change processes and routines, I do it based on my own experience, but also based on the political will. The fact that there's a political will to enhance participation is really important. Otherwise, it would be hard for us to motivate the development work within our regular work. And so this shows that these two justifications are not necessarily distinct, and the planners feel some kind of ambivalence in the relationship between them. And finally, I know I'm running out of time, but I'll share this last quote, that one of the colleagues of Anna and Cecilia suggests that maybe there's actually a third justification that should be considered here as well. And that with this third way, we can open a discussion about what it means to be a civil servant and where their loyalties lie. So it calls into the question the explanatory capacity of these two justifications that we present. And I could say a lot more on this, but I'm out of time, so I will stop sharing. Thank you.